Hi, Cassius, you okay?
I'm excellent, man. How are you?
I'm fine. Can you hear me okay? Yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. I've seen the film. I enjoyed it. Yeah, just a couple of days ago.
Cool.
And what I did like was the flashback scenes. I thought I mean, obviously the fighting as well. I mean, but I'll talk about a few things. But the flashback scenes, I felt that you're very, very strong in what you portrayed there. You know how you wanted the scene to come across.
Well, those were the unique scenes in our shooting schedule where I was able to just focus behind the camera. um, so in a way, it was like it's so weird because like in a way it was a pleasure just to be able to focus on directing the film. Um, and pleasure is a strange word to use because those flashback scenes are depictions of trauma, you know? And I think what I understood intuitively writing the script and going into production was that those scenes, the flashback scenes paired with the therapy scenes were that was the heart of the movie. That was really the spine of the film. And if those didn't come across as authentic, as nuanced, as emotionally truthful and resonant, no matter what I did with the other things, the movie wouldn't work and it wouldn't have achieved the goal that I set out to achieve with this movie. So I was really actress Camila Rodriguez, who plays Alonso's mother, Silvia. She was a nurse in the trauma section of Jackson Memorial Hospital. She had never acted in a film, no experience acting on screen, and she gave one of the most incredible performances I've ever seen in a movie. You know, and I had the pleasure of directing her. You know what I mean? And working with someone like a Yara Martinez from Jane the Virgin, from True Detective, as the therapist in the film,
Yeah.
as my scene partner, that elevated my performance dramatically. And thankfully, the production was scheduled in such a way by virtue of her availability that our scenes were at the very front of the schedule. So it's not like we shot for 2 weeks and then she came in and did a couple days at the end of the schedule. No, thank God she came in at the beginning and just elevated what I was doing and what the rest of the cast and crew were doing from the outset. And that was just a stroke of luck that we were very fortunate to have.
And when you wrote this, was it always your intention to direct it, produce it, and act in it, or was it a case of you wrote it and then you were going to direct it and then you sort of added in you wanted to do the acting bit, or was it always your intention from the start to do all four, I guess?
So I knew what I wanted to do more than anything else was direct my first feature film. That was the objective. That's what I enjoy the most is directing. And I knew that to do that, I would have to write that screenplay, you know, because I had worked in script coverage for a big literary agency. I saw the quality of the scripts that came in, even for high level directors.
Yeah.
And it was very low, like brutally unoriginal, generic, mediocre screenplays were the not even just the norm. That was 95% of every script that came in from professional working screenwriters. And I realized, okay, like if the good directors are fighting over mediocre scripts, I'm never going to get a shot at anything resembling a good screenplay unless I write it myself. And I also understood, because I come from an entrepreneurship background, I also understood the importance of controlling the project as a producer. And on the one hand, I knew, okay, if I write the screenplay, I control it. And on the other hand, I knew I'm going to have to produce this I was very lucky to have a great producing team for Huracán, but I knew that I was going to have to be intimately involved, sort of driving the producing conversation for this film to ever come to life. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, even though I started writing it in September 2016, the first day I started writing it was the first day I started producing it, because I was writing it with a no budget in mind, you know? And as much as I love directing, the directing of it has only been a fraction of the entire experience so far. You know, it's been now 4 years since the project began, and the producing is the element that you wake up every single day with the weight of the film on your shoulders, having to push it just another inch up the mountain every single day, you know? And the acting piece came in after I had already written several drafts of the screenplay, and I was just wrapping my head around how I was going to find an actor who could bring to life in a truthful way, the experience of living with severe mental illness, and then separately, completely unrelated, having the skill set of a mixed martial artist who's been training for years and is about to become a professional,
Yeah.
and it just wasn't feasible to find someone, especially in Miami, which does not have a talent pipeline for actors. There's so few acting programs, basically none, that it just became a huge obstacle. And I took the biggest risk of all, was the decision, to star in the film.
And I know you touched on it when you mentioned about the mental health element of the film, which is obviously one of the key components of the film. You used EMDR. I think that's the first time in a film that it's ever been used.
Right.
How did you sort of come up with that? I mean, not the actual discovery of EMDR, but to put it in the film. But why did you sort of put it in this film?
So while I was developing the film, my dad, who's a judge in Miami-Dade Circuit Court, at the time was in juvenile court, which is also known as family court. And every case that's brought before family court involves the claim of child abuse, child abandonment, or child neglect.
Okay.
And some of the most heartbreaking, stories you can imagine. And by going to his courthouse day after day, really immersing myself in that world, and seeing sort of, all these cases where, kids were traumatized either by being abused directly or being abandoned by their family, and developing mental illness as a response to that. Like, that was a hugely informative aspect of the development of this film. And in the course doing that, my dad introduced me to a woman named Judy Pasos, who was the court-appointed therapist in his juvenile court, who, as her and I got to know each other and she became a consultant on the film, she introduced me to EMDR therapy. And she told me, she said, look, if you're going to be showing someone who suffers from this illness, and you're going to show them going through therapy, highlight this form of therapy, because it's by far the most effective thing myself and my colleagues have ever found in helping people who are trauma survivors, especially those with severe mental illness. It's called a trauma resolution therapy. So it helps them resolve their trauma in a way that's much more effective than anything they'd ever seen before. And why she felt it was so important for us to shine a spotlight on it is because it's such a new therapy. It's so young that insurance providers don't cover it. So she felt, if you can help give some visibility to this form of therapy, you can help you make some impact in my field, and for people who suffer from this to know that it exists, and hopefully start the snowball of momentum that could one day get it recognized by these insurance providers, so we can offer it to all of our clients.
And so, was it probably the most trickiest thing about the film then, when you're making this, to get that right? Over, say, the fighting, because I know there was no stunt coordinator or fight coordinator for the fight scenes.
It's funny, because that might have been like the most straightforward aspect of it, and kind of the thing that I knew going in, I had the most confidence in, was our ability to create these really visceral and dynamic fight scenes, because knowing how other productions approach fight scenes with a stunt coordinator, 2 cameras, pausing every time someone throws a strike, like, that is just so fake. It's so staged, and it's so, when I'm watching a movie and I see it, it's like I feel allergic to it, because it's so obviously fake. Like, there's nothing realistic about it. And I knew going into this film that we'd be able to have an opportunity to do a completely different. If I'm going to cast as a martial artist myself, I could just cast only real fighters in the other roles. If I'm just fighting with these guys and we have a feel more real, because we're not pausing to do these stunts. We don't have stunt actors, preventing us from showing the faces. Like, It would just free us up to really bring the naturalism into it. And I felt that would also make it more dynamic and engaging.
I myself, I do Thai boxing, Muay Thai, so I can relate to.
Awesome.
So I can relate to some of the stuff in the film. So
that's awesome.
So I was going to ask you how easy was it to sort of get us into production then from once you'd done the screenplay?
I would not say easy. I definitely wouldn't use that word. um, I mean, well, actually, in a way, it was like, I'm not gonna say it was easy. It was incredibly challenging. The fundraising was incredibly difficult. Just the mental aspect of like, especially once I decided to act in the movie, there was such a great risk of it being this, humiliating failure. I had never acted in anything before, so
Really? Seriously?
yeah, yeah, yeah. This was the first thing I'd ever acted in.
Wow.
So for me to be writing, directing, and starring, and like the producing, whatever, like, but just the writing, directing, starring, there was going to be a target on this movie. You know what I mean? And especially in the event that it wasn't good, it'd be so easy to make fun of it and to make fun of me, and that was such a risk, and it was terrifying. You know what I mean? That scared me, and I just had to come to terms. I had to just come to terms with that possibility and say, why am I doing this? I'm doing this primarily because I want to be a filmmaker. I want to be directing feature films. And to do that, I need to learn concretely how to do it. And no matter how much time I spend working on other people's productions, no matter how many short films I make, no matter how many commercials, music videos, whatever, books I read, interviews I watch, like films I analyze, like until I'm directing a movie, like I won't really know what that's like. And so I just prioritized. I understood that for my journey, I needed that experience from an education standpoint. I needed to be able to learn from it. And I said, if the result is failure and failure in an embarrassing way, like I'll learn from that. You know what I mean? And that'll make me better. And very lucky that the movie hasn't been an embarrassing failure, and that it's been received in the way it has. But I'd say those two elements. And then the third element I'd say that was incredibly challenging was the building the team. When you're on a no budget, like this ultra micro budget type of film, it's such a challenge to know how to find people who are good enough, experienced enough to give you what you need, but are also still, young enough in their career that they are going to have the passion for your project and are going to invest their time into it to the degree that you need to guarantee that you get what you want out of the movie. And so I would say those are the three biggest hurdles.
I was going to say, it's a good job it does work, because you do want to be seen as a narcissist, because obviously having yourself on screen directing and producing it and writing it, it's obviously worked.
Thankfully.
What I did say, it comes across as very raw. It reminded me of Warrior. Have you ever seen Warrior, the film?
Yeah, of course.
So it's quite, it's a very, very raw sort of film. And like you say, there are obviously a lot of new actors in there, new sort of team members who are first into film. But it does work. And so it must be very rewarding when you've, like you say, the pauses you've had must be, so self-rewarding for yourself and for them as well.
I mean, the most, you know what I mean? The best part of the whole process has been every time we've gotten a good piece of news, being able to share it with our team, you know what I mean? Being able to share it with our cast and our crew and our investors, like that this accomplishment, and it's continued to grow, and getting a theatrical release throughout the United Kingdom that begins today, October 23rd, like that's one of the biggest wins of the whole process. And for our team to know that we're going to be in movie theaters on screens like throughout the UK, it's so rewarding, because I did design it. We all designed it for the theatrical experience. And while of course, like it'll play well on laptops, it'll play well, on your TV. It was designed for the theater and for the movie theater rather. And to be able to have that experience and give people in the UK that experience is like, that's one of the biggest privileges we've had so far.
I agree with you. And last question, my friend. What next for you? What's next for you?
So I have a film that I'm developing based on the true story of Tatiana Suarez, who's one of the most inspiring people I've ever met. She grew up, Mexican-American woman, grew up in Southern California in a very impoverished and abusive household, and was able to channel all of her frustration and anger into wrestling, and became a wrestling prodigy. She was a 4-time national champion, and then was recruited to the US Olympic wrestling team.
Okay.
And before the 2012 London Olympics, where she had already made the Olympic team, she was getting ready. She was being touted as a favorite to medal. She broke her neck in a catastrophic training incident. And when they did the MRI to check on her injury, they found that she also had thyroid cancer.
Jeez.
And her life was in jeopardy. And it took her 2.5 years to beat chemo, to recover, and they never sanctioned her to wrestle again. But she said, I told myself when I was a child that I was going to be a world champion, and nothing can stop me. Not cancer, not a broken neck, not the Olympic team pulling my sanction, but I'm going to continue on this path. And if I have to do it in MMA fighting, that's where I'm going to do it. So she started fighting, and today she's 9-0, undefeated, the #1 ranked contender in the UFC strawweight division. The real life Rocky, you know.
Yeah.
And telling her story is going to be one of the biggest honors I've had in my life, you know.
I'll look forward to watching that when it's ready then. So
Cool.
well, thank you, Cassius. I appreciate it. Yeah, you take care.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you.